Welcome again. I'm glad that you're here. The reason we're building Premium and the reason we released it today is because of much of the feedback we got from you. When we started Power BI, it grew organically inside a lot of organizations much like your own. You may have discovered Power BI Desktop, built some reports on your own, distributed those to a few of your colleagues with the Power BI service, and then over time, more people discovered them. They got shared with more people, and your deployments grew and grew and grew. And in many cases, Power BI Premium was built to address the challenges of deploying Power BI at scale, where you have larger data models that have grown over time, and when you have more users that are accessing the content. This whole session is about Power BI Premium, and there are additional sessions later that will delve into some of the details. But I'd like to start with just a basic overview of what we built and why. At its core, Power BI Premium are dedicated resources in the cloud for your own individual Power BI workload. To understand why this is important, we need to contrast it against how the Power BI service works today. Today in Power BI, we run data centers around the world to serve our customers. Inside those data centers, all of the data models exist on a shared pool of machines. So yours are alongside some of your colleagues in your organization, and there might be other machines that are hosting content from other users, and even in other organizations as well. Power BI Premium is inherently different. You get your own machines that are dedicated to you. They're not shared with other users in other organizations, and you can even have different premium instances for different parts of your organization if you want that. Because of this dedicated nature, there are a number of benefits you get with Power BI Premium, and I'll talk about those as we go. The first benefit is the flexibility around how you license it. Today with Power BI Pro, you're licensing on a per-user basis. So every user that creates or consumes shared content has a Pro license. But in very large deployments where you want Power BI to be accessible to all users in your organization, this might not be an economically viable model for your particular organization. With Premium, it works differently. You put your content into your dedicated Premium instance, and then anyone can access it. It doesn't matter what kind of license they have. The second key benefit is that we give you greater scale and performance. Part of this comes from the isolation. You get isolated and consistent performance because your content's running on its own machines. But also, those machines are yours, so you can use them however you want. And we don't impose any limits around data model sizes, refresh, or other aspects of the kind of content you put into Power BI. The third benefit is really around a flexibility to choose how you deploy Power BI. You can deploy Power BI Premium instances in the cloud, but we also give you an equivalent number of use rights to deploy the Power BI report server on premises, which is very useful if you have your own existing infrastructure you want to deploy reports from, or if you have unique compliance or regulatory requirements that means you need to deliver reporting on premises. Finally, Power BI Premium is our platform for embedded analytics. I know many of you build internal applications that you use inside of your organizations that you want to have analytics as a part of. You might even be starting to think about or have built applications for your end customers, or for your partners, or for your vendors that you want to include analytics in. With Power BI Premium, you can do that. We have a rich API set that lets you embed into a variety of different applications so that you can have analytics wherever you need them. So I'm going to go into a number of details on each of these 4 points, starting with this flexibility to license by capacity. So as I mentioned today, Pro licenses are one way to give readers access to content. But with Power BI Premium, you can put content in Premium and then allow any user to access it. Now, you may ask, how does this work? How can it be that everyone can access the content? With Power BI Premium, the way that it works is the more users that go on the Premium, the more load you're adding to your Premium instance. And so at some point, you may have to choose a larger Premium capacity size depending upon the size of your workload. And that's really your choice. You can choose whether to deploy a small Premium instance or a large one, depending upon how many users you want to access it. So really, your investment in Power BI Premium scales depending upon how much load you put on the system, right? How many people are accessing reports concurrently, and not based on the individual named users. And we've heard from many of you, this was really the model that you wanted. Now, you can choose how much premium you want to allocate for your workload. You could over-provision it, so there are lots of servers backing the rendering of your reports, or you could provision a much smaller set. And this allows you to really tailor the performance depending upon the needs of your workloads. You might have one set of content that your executives are looking at day in and day out, and you want that to be the exact fastest it can possibly be, and you can put those in one premium capacity instance. And you might have a whole set of other content that needs to be available, but just on a periodic basis. And you could provision that on another capacity instance with maybe a smaller size. And the important point to remember is that as you add more people using your content, you can scale up Power BI Premium as you go. So it can keep up with your deployment. Another important part of the flexible content distribution is not about how you store the data sets, but it's about how end users access it. And in many respects, whoops, we're missing one slide here. I think I went. No, I'll just go ahead. I'll come back to that in a second. The second benefit here is greater scale and performance. As I mentioned, Power BI Premium gives you dedicated capacity. It's exclusively for your use. There are different scenarios where you could use this. You could deploy Premium for your entire organization, or you could deploy it for different departments or projects. And that gives you isolation amongst different workloads. I don't want you to think, though, that because it's dedicated hardware, this means there's a lot for you to manage. Premium is still fully managed by Microsoft. We run it to make sure that it's always highly available and that you always have consistent performance. But we do give you controls as an individual administrator about how you manage that particular instance, who has access to it, who can put content on there, so that you can ensure that it meets the performance that you need. The third benefit is really about that on-premises capability. And as I mentioned, when you buy Power BI Premium, you have the choice. You can deploy premium capacity instances in the cloud, and you can also deploy the equivalent number of virtual cores on premises. And that virtual core concept is really important because that's the basic unit of how we size Power BI Premium. We have different node sizes that give you 8, 16, or 32 virtual cores, and that really governs how much content and how much concurrent users you can put on it. The Power BI report server, when you install that on premises, it gives you the ability to run both existing SSRS reports in addition to reports that you build in Power BI Desktop. There are some limitations today about exactly what kind of reports you can run, but we have a roadmap to continue investing in the Power BI report server to support more and more kinds of reports. There's a lot of details here about the on-premises component, so I encourage you to go to this particular session that's later today. Ricardo's doing that on the Power BI report server and the particular on-premises components. The fourth aspect of Power BI Premium is really embedded analytics. I have to ask, how many people here have tried or are using right now our solution Power BI Embedded with our APIs to embed Power BI into your own applications? Okay, a few of you. So for a while now, we've had a solution that gives you APIs and embedded controls to take Power BI report content and put that into your own internal or external applications. We've heard from a lot of you that you wanted more. You wanted access to more kinds of reports. You wanted more kinds of data sources inside of our embedded capabilities. And you wanted to embed more things, not just reports, but also dashboards. So we're making a big investment in our embedded analytics capabilities, and we're doing that as part of Power BI Premium. Going forward, Power BI Premium is our solution for both the web portal and the mobile app, so end users consuming content through the apps that we build as Microsoft. But Power BI Premium will also be the solution that you can use as developers to integrate analytics into your own applications. And when you buy Premium, you can use either our web and mobile apps, or you can use our APIs to integrate it into your own apps, or you can use both. It's completely up to you, and you have complete flexibility about how to choose your deployment. An important benefit of Power BI Premium for embedded analytics as compared to the previous Power BI embedded offering is the pricing model. With Power BI Premium, you're paying for a fixed capacity size for a fixed amount per month. And that gives you cost certainty on what your embedded analytics solution is going to cost you. You can plan in your existing budget cycles and know that that's how much it's going to cost. With the previous Power BI embedded offering, we charged on a per report session model that made it a little bit harder to budget. So we've made that better with Power BI Premium and embedded. The fourth thing is, it really is an open and extensible platform. We have an APIs for a whole set of different things, from the most basic, like embedding a report into your own solution, to other things in our JavaScript API that let your application set particular filters on a report. You can even embed the capability for end users to customize and create their own reports in your application. So there are a whole host of capabilities here that you can take advantage of now that embedded analytics are part of Power BI Premium. Again, this is a topic where there's a whole bunch of details to go through. And we have a very detailed session on that again, is this afternoon at 1 p.m., where you can look at how to do embedding with Power BI Premium. I want to talk a little bit now about how Power BI Premium fits into the overall Power BI portfolio. So you may have noticed that it now appears on the right-hand side of the slide. That's how it fits. But it fits within the other options. Power BI Desktop continues to be our tool for report authoring and ad hoc exploration. Anyone can download it for free, and they can use it to build the reports that are used with the rest of the ecosystem. In the service, we have two tiers. We have the Power BI free service, which is intended for personal analytics, so you can build reports that you use yourself. And then we have Power BI Pro, which allows you to create content and share content with others and consume shared content. So if you buy Pro for your team or for your organization, all of those users can share and distribute content amongst each other. Power BI Premium is an add-on to Pro that gives you these extra benefits, like distribution to all users, even if they don't have a Pro license, and additional capabilities around higher limits for scheduled refresh, data model sizes, etc. So in your organization, you might choose one or both of these options. You might decide that an all-Pro deployment is what you want to do, and this gives you the capabilities you need. You might decide that you also want to augment that with Premium for some scenarios where you have these larger data model sizes, or you want isolated and consistent performance, or where you want to build applications, BI applications, where you distribute them to a large number of users. Just to reinforce that point, Premium really has two components that you buy. You buy Pro licenses for the people that are authoring content. These are the people that are building reports in your organization. And then you buy Power BI Premium, and this is the dedicated capacity that runs your reports and enables distribution to others. The Pro licenses are something you can buy standalone, but if you're already an existing Microsoft Office 365 E5 customer, they're included. Okay, so this looks like a bit of an eye chart, but I want to go through the details because it gives you some important information here. There are two different user license tiers. So an individual user can either be a user that's on our free tier, or they can be a user that's on the Pro tier. And depending upon that, that gives them different capabilities. As I mentioned, the free tier is all about personal analytics. So you can go and connect to any of our data sources. You can publish to the web, which is something that's suitable for putting it on your blog or public website. And that's it. It's a personal solution. If you move up to the Power BI Pro tier, you get a whole bunch of other capabilities that are aimed at sharing and distribution. We have built-in simple sharing, so that you can click a share button on any dashboard, simply enter in someone's email address, and they can be viewing that dashboard in a few seconds. That's available to anyone that's on Pro, and both the sharer and the recipient have a Pro license to make that work. But then included in Pro are also all of our enterprise distribution capabilities. Things like apps, email subscriptions, and embedded APIs. And I want to talk a little bit about apps in particular, because it is a core part of our enterprise distribution story. When we thought about Premium, we not only wanted to increase the power and the capabilities of the reports, data models, and dashboards stored inside of Premium, but we also wanted to purpose-build a solution for distributing that broadly within organizations. And Power BI apps are really that mechanism. They allow you to package up reports and dashboards into one app and distribute that to other users. Consumption of apps is really simple. Users can just click on the app from the Power BI web portal or from their mobile experience. It's as simple as on your mobile phone. Click on the app, see the content. Apps can be distributed via links you put in email, on web portals. They can be pushed automatically to users. They can be found by end users by navigating our listing of apps. So it's a very robust way to get content to end users, managed and packaged together in a way that matters to you and to your teams that are building BI. Similarly, email subscriptions are something that's part of Pro. So any user can go and subscribe to a dashboard and get a snapshot of that in their email inbox anytime the data changes. And then finally, if you're on Pro, you can use all of our embedded APIs and controls. The other important facet of Pro is really around collaboration. So there's collaboration on creating content. That's something that we have called group workspaces. But also, we have capabilities that let end users create their own reports and do their own ad hoc analysis on top of shared data. A recently released feature is Power BI Desktop Live Connect to the service that lets someone point to an existing data set in Power BI and build their own custom report on it. And you can do the same thing in Excel by pointing Excel at a data set in Power BI and do your own custom ad hoc analysis. That's all something that's part of Power BI Pro. If we look at this from a different dimension, it's important, again, to understand the difference between shared capacity and Power BI Premium capacity, which is what you get when you license Power BI Premium. At a high level, the way to think about this is higher limits, right? More performance and enterprise distribution to all users. So an important point to mention with Premium is we have made it generally available today. It has a number of exciting capabilities, but this is also just the beginning. We're continuing to evolve and improve the capabilities in Premium in the months ahead. Some of the things on this slide are available today, and some of them we're going to improve as we go along, and Siri is going to show you a view of the roadmap, including some enhancements that are planned. Dataset size. In shared capacity, it's 1 gigabyte. In Power BI Premium today, you can publish a 1 gigabyte import-based data model, but we're going to be increasing that limit as we go, so you can include more and more data model sizes inside of Premium. Second, refresh rate. With the general availability today, you can now refresh up to 48 times. That's much more than the 8 a day you could do in shared capacity. And again, the reason for this is that you own those resources in Premium, and you can do with them as you want. Even beyond those 48 scheduled refreshes a day, we're releasing an API that lets you trigger a refresh of a data set. So if you have your own ETL process that stages data and gets it ready for Power BI, you can make a call to our API at the end to instantly refresh that data set so that the latest data is always available to your report consumers. You get the isolation with Premium, and you get this enterprise distribution. So again, unlike in shared capacity with Pro, in Premium, all end users can consume with apps, and end users will be able to be subscribed to email subscriptions by creators, and they'll be able to view content in embedded APIs. When we talk about consumption in apps for users on Premium, it's important to recognize that it's not just viewing a dashboard or report. There are many other consumption capabilities that users will be able to do. Things like our Quick Insights feature, export to CSV, to PowerPoint, to Excel, a set of capabilities that let them get that data and consume it in the way that matters to them. They can do that on web, and they can also do it in the mobile apps. Finally, performance, and this is really the future-looking section. We're going to continue to evolve the performance characteristics of Premium, adding a whole host of new features that let you do much more with it than you can do at the beginning. And Siri is going to talk about these a little bit later. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the pricing here. So we have different node sizes of Power BI Premium that you can purchase. These are the basic ones that are available at GA today. They scale up in a linear fashion, and it's all depending upon the number of virtual cores. So depending upon the size of your workload, you might need a P1, a P2, or a P3, depending upon your situation. You might even buy different nodes for different purposes inside of your organization. This isn't going to be the final list of SKUs. As Amir talked about in the keynote this morning, we're also introducing additional lower-priced SKUs just for embedded capabilities. So if you don't need the full UI capabilities of Power BI, our web app and our mobile app for your consumers, if instead you're just embedding capabilities into your own application or into another application like SharePoint, we're adding lower-level SKUs just for those embedding purposes, and our lowest-level EM SKU, EM1, is going to start at $625 a month, so very much a low entry point for it. The embedded SKUs do have those limitations around only being used for embedded applications, but if you enter at the P1 level, you're going to get all of the capabilities of Premium and all of the consumption, including web and mobile apps, Quick Insights, and those capabilities as well. So I'd like to hand it over to Siri, who's going to walk into some of the details about how this actually works in practice in the Power BI service. Siri?
Thank you, Adam. So as Adam mentioned, I'm actually going to dive into the nuts and bolts of how Premium works, right? Like we've heard the high-level pitch. Let's talk about how you go ahead and start deploying Premium to your organization and what that kind of looks like. And so I'll start with just kind of a table of contents. I'll first talk about how you purchase Premium, right, what the actual process there is. From there, I'll talk about how you can start deploying your content into that dedicated hardware. That's the section titled Assign Workspaces to Dedicated Capacity. And finally, we'll talk about how you can go ahead and start taking advantage of some of those special powers that Premium is going to give to your content, right? Things like distributing your content to all your users and the increased limits in the service. So the first thing I want to talk about, I'll just touch on this pretty briefly, is how you actually acquire dedicated capacity, how you actually acquire Premium. And so when you go into the Premium, into the admin portal today, what you'll see is actually a button that is going to take you to the Office 365 portal. And there you'll be able to purchase the different SKUs of Premium. And as Adam mentioned, that is available starting today. And so you go into the admin portal. This is just a familiar Office 365 administrator experience, and there you'll be able to purchase, right, the P1, the P2, and the P3 SKUs, so you can start taking advantage of those. Now, the moment that you purchase those SKUs, what you'll see is that they'll actually show up in the administrative portal for Premium, and here, it's a little small, but if you can make that out, you'll just see these new capacity instances just start showing up there, and that'll be how you know that when you can start taking advantage of Premium, and that should just be a very quick process once you've purchased it. Okay, so now you've purchased Premium capacity, right? And so the next question is, okay, how do I start getting my content to start running on dedicated hardware? And so the key here, right, is that you assign workspaces to dedicated capacity, right? And once you assign your workspace to dedicated capacity, to Premium, then all the content inside that workspace is going to start running on the hardware. That's kind of the cue for us to say, hey, let's start moving this content over to run on the special hardware. And that includes, right, all the dashboards, all the reports, and all the different data sets. And so it turns out, there's a few ways that you can start moving your workspaces into dedicated capacity, right? Now, we acknowledge that people are going to use Premium for a bunch of different purposes. And then you might, your usage characteristics in terms of how you configure your workspaces may also differ in your organization. So we really wanted to give you guys the flexibility to use Premium however you want. And the way that you see that reflected is that we actually have a bunch of different options for how you can assign your workspaces to capacity. So here we see option number 1, and that is you can bulk assign workspaces to your capacity. Right? And so the use case is here, right? You could say, for example, I want to buy a large capacity, right, a P3, and I want to put my entire company on capacity. My entire company should be able to use it really without thinking about it. And we make that, and that option is totally something you can do, totally a way you can configure Premium, right? And so over here, I have the admin portal UI. When you go as an administrator, you can say, hey, I want my entire organization on a particular Premium instance, no questions asked, and we'll just make that happen for you. Option number 2 is you say, hey, you know what, maybe I don't want my entire organization to be on Premium, but I at least want a significant subset of my organization, right? Say I have a team of analysts or just a very large team, a division, what have you. I'm buying Premium for them. I want to make it really easy. No questions asked, so they just start getting the benefits of Premium capacity, and we also make that really easy as well. So here you'll see if you squint, the second option there is I want to assign all the workspaces owned by a specific set of users or groups, right? So you can just put a security group in there. You can put individual users by email address, and we'll just go ahead and move over all the workspaces that they own. And if we have time, we can go ahead and show you guys a really cool demo of that. Now, for these bulk assignment options, right, we limit those to what we call the capacity admin. And so that's a special privilege on the capacity itself. It's, as you can imagine, an administrator level of permission, and so these people are going to be the only ones who are allowed to make these mass assignments into Premium. And of course, if you're an Office 365 Global Administrator or a Power BI Administrator, you'll automatically get these privileges as part of your role. Okay? So option number 2, so you might say, hey, those options sound great, but I want to actually be a lot more selective with how I deploy Premium. Or maybe I buy this capacity, I just want a particular project, or I really want to be restrictive with how my dedicated hardware is being used, right? Maybe this is my executive dashboard. No way is anything else getting onto this dedicated hardware. So option number 2 is far more specific. So what you can do is you can configure specific workspaces. You can just move individual workspaces one by one into Premium. And that's what you'll see here. This is the Edit Workspace pane. And we've added a new option here under Advanced, which is the Premium toggle. And so here you can go in and just move individual workspaces one by one into Premium. Now, in addition, what you can do is tightly control who has permissions to go flip that switch, right? And so there's a second level of user permissions that we have called workspace assignment permissions, and only people with workspace assignment permissions can go ahead and flip that switch. If you don't have that level of permissions, then you're not going to be able to take advantage of Premium for your organization, right? And so this is a way by which you can have a far more surgical control over how Premium is being used. If you just want one or two workspaces in Premium, you can do that, right? You can personally or have a delegate move those workspaces in one by one and then restrict, prevent anyone else from moving any of their workspaces into Premium. Okay, let's go back to the administrative pieces of Premium and just kind of deep dive more into the administrative controls that you'll get over your Premium capacity as a capacity admin. So the other thing I want to stress right now, right, is that only capacity admins can access this capacity information in the admin portal. If you just have those assignment permissions, you're not going to be able to do that. So when you go into the new admin portal, the new tab we have for Premium, you'll see all of the capacities in your organization that you have capacity admin permissions to. Here it looks like I have access to 3 of them in this particular screenshot. And right, it's administered from the Power BI admin portal, and those were my talking points. Let's keep going. So once you click into an individual capacity, what you'll see is a lot of additional information that'll help you manage this capacity. So the first thing I want to draw your eyes to are the key metrics for the capacity. So as Adam mentioned, right, there's really 3 key metrics that your capacity comes with, right? You have your vCores, which is providing that CPU power. You have memory, right, RAM. And finally, you have a certain quota of direct query or live connection queries that this capacity can be making. And those 3 tiles up there correspond to how this particular capacity is doing with respect to that resource usage, right? So you see CPU there, memory there, and direct query. Now, what we do with these tiles is we make it really easy for you to, at a glance, see how your capacity is doing. So what we're doing is, over the past week, we're measuring periods where your capacity is overutilized to the point where you might have bad experience for your users because of that, right? And so the reason these tiles are green right now is that it turns out in the past week there have been no instances where you've had these performance degradation events in your capacity. Now, if you imagine as you keep loading your capacity up with more and more workloads, right here I have 69 workspaces, but maybe I have 100 as I add more, right? You might get more and more of these occurrences of these performance degradation events. Those tiles will start turning yellow and red, and that's when you know maybe it's a good idea for me to start scaling out or adding more capacity, right? So it'd be good to keep an eye out on those. The next thing you can do in the admin portal is assign the 2 levels of permissions, right? And so, as I mentioned before, capacity admin, that's the highest level of permissions, and then workspace assignment permissions. That's for the individual end users who are just flipping that switch. And so here you can just control what users are allowed to do what really easily. And finally, at the bottom here, you'll see a list of all the workspaces currently assigned to this capacity. And so it'll be a long list. You can search through it from that search box over there. And for individual workspaces, you can also have the control to kick those workspaces out of dedicated capacity as an admin, right? So say you realize this one workspace, hey, it's not actually working out, it's not meant to be in Premium, or at least what you want to use for this Premium capacity. You can just kick out that workspace, and it'll land back in non-dedicated hardware, what we call shared capacity, right? And so those controls are absolutely available to you as an admin. And at the top right, you'll also see the bulk workspace assignment options that are available to the admin, right? So clicking on this button here will actually get you to the set of bulk assignment options that we showed earlier, right? Move my entire organization into Premium, or just move a specific set of users' workspaces into Premium. And again, that's only available to the capacity admin by virtue of being in this admin portal. And finally, what we see just to the left of that, I don't call this out explicitly, but I just want to briefly touch on it. There is a remove all workspace button that lets you kind of reset your capacity in case something drastically wrong happens. Now, at this point, I also want to talk about the end user experience for Premium. right? And so here, there's two things I want to call out. One is a point I've already touched on, which is once you give an end user permissions, assignment permissions to capacity, they'll be able to go into Edit Workspace and just flip that switch on. The one other thing I want to call out now, right, is that this is an action that we give only to workspace admins as well. So you need to be an administrator of the workspace, like you need to have control of the workspace, and you need to have capacity assignment permissions in order to flip this switch, right? So you basically need to have those two things happen for you. And then to the right, what you'll see is just some UI indicators of when content is moved into Premium, right? Now, what we do is once a workspace is assigned to Premium, we add that little nice diamond to it. And that'll show up in the breadcrumb up above, in the workspace drill down. And also, if you go into the Reset and Shared With Me menus, it'll also be available there on individual pieces of content. And so you can really tell, hey, you know, is this content in Premium or not? Can I get the advantages of it? Right? And so the moment you move your workspace into Premium, that's when you'll get these higher limits. You'll be able to schedule additional refreshes, et cetera. Okay? And of course, here's the diamond. Now, once content is in Premium, right, you get those special powers. And so special power number one, right, is unlimited distribution to end users. Your end users can consume that content without the need for per user, pro licenses. And the way to enable that is assign a workspace to Premium and then publish an app based on that workspace. And so we've made it really, really easy with Power BI apps to go ahead and start publishing that app. You just go into a workspace, and the Publish App button is one click away. And it's just a really quick few-step process. You just confirm, hey, I want to publish this app. I want to give permissions to a certain set of people. Like you could say my entire organization should have permissions to it, or just individual groups or what have you, right? And that's separate from whether they have licensing access to it, right? So if this is a Premium app, of course, my entire organization has the licensing access to consume it. But I can still, as an app creator, say, hey, from a permissions access control level, I only want, you know, this particular division or this particular set of folks to see it. So that's step two. And once you hit publish, then that app, you know, packages the content together. And then your consumers, there's a few ways they can get that app now, right? They can browse through AppSource. They'll get this beautiful gallery of all the apps that they have access to. Or as the app creator, you'll actually get a link. And that link you can, you know, send around an email or put on your web portals, et cetera. And once a user clicks on that link, they'll install the app or they'll add the app to their Power BI portal, and they'll be able to go ahead and start consuming it. And so with Power BI apps, right, we're making it really, really easy for you to take all that content that you've built in Power BI and distribute it far and wide with Premium.
I think this is a really important point, too. For end users, they may not even realize that the content they're viewing is from Premium, because they could just be looking at an apps list. Some of the apps could come from one Premium capacity. Some of the apps could come from another. And if they're a pro user, maybe they even have apps that are coming from the shared capacity. But for the end consumer, all they see is Power BI. They go to app.powerbi.com, they see the list of their apps, and they click through and get content, either on the web or in mobile. So Premium really is something that helps in the back end and gives you those special powers, as Siri put it. But for your end consumers, they may not even need to know, other than they're having a consistently fast experience, perhaps even with larger data volumes than they had before.
That's right. That's a really good point, Adam. It's a really exciting thing, right? Your end users, it might as well, they don't need to know about Premium, which is great. So here's a question we've gotten a lot since our Premium announce, right? Which is, how do I plan for how much Premium capacity I need? Right? And this is a really great question, but it's one that the answer to that question is really going to vary due to a whole number of factors, right? Because Premium is providing that computational capacity for for the content that you place in Premium, there's just a ton of factors at play here. For example, how big are your models, right? How complex are your models, right? How many relationships? Do you have measures against it? Are you importing that model, or are you doing live connection to a separate data set or data source that you've stood up somewhere else? How are your end users behaving once they access that content, right? Are they just hitting a dashboard briefly, or are they really diving into the report and clicking around, et cetera, right? How are your visuals built? You know, is it a simple card, or is it a giant map with a bunch of dots, a bunch of data points on it, right? And finally, and this is not the final example, but just a final example, do you have row-level security, right? Is every individual user seeing different data? So there's just a huge number of factors at play here. And so as a result, this is our guidance. Right? Our guidance is, well, first of all, use the premium pricing calculator. It'll give you a great starting point for how much capacity we think you'll need. Take that initial estimate, right? Monitor your metrics, right? And I'll talk a little bit more about how you can do that in a second, and then scale up or down as needed. Right? And that's really our guidance for how do you determine how much capacity you'll need from the get-go. So you can ask the question, hey, once I do need to scale out, how do I do that, right? What is the steps I have to take? So the guidance here is, say you have a particular capacity, you're seeing those metrics hit yellow or red, or maybe users are, and hopefully it doesn't come to this, but maybe users are talking about poor performance. What you want to do at that point is scale out your capacity. And so to do this, what you can do is, purchase another node of capacity, and then determine the workspaces that might be causing a lot of load on your original capacity, and then go ahead and easily assign them to that new capacity, right? And so now a really reasonable question to ask at this point is, well, how do I know which workspaces are causing load, right? And so certainly from a product perspective, we're going to be making it easier and easier for you guys to understand how much load each particular workspace is taking. Now, but at initial release, there are a number of tools already available to you, right? And so one example here is the usage metrics feature that we just released. And so that feature will actually allow you to easily build a report for usage on your entire workspace, right? And so you can go in there, you can create that report and say, hey, this workspace is actually being used 1,000 times an hour by all my users. This other one is actually not that much used, and so that's a great indicator that the first workspace is taking up a lot more of your capacity. Another really, really powerful tool, if you have access to it, are the Office 365 audit logs. And so once you enable this for your organization, as an administrator, you'll have really, really fine-grained details about how your end users are using Power BI. Which dashboards are they creating and viewing? Which reports are they creating and viewing? Just a whole long list of details like that for your usage of Power BI. And so from there, you're also able to get a very similar view of, hey, which workspaces are really heavily used, which ones are probably taking up more load, which ones are kind of just not being used as much. And so from there, you can get a really good sense of, hey, these workspaces, maybe I should split them out onto two capacities, whereas the other ones I can just keep them where they are. So with the presentation, what I want to end with is just a roadmap, right? And so today we're really thrilled to be GAing Premium. So you can go out and acquire Premium and start taking advantage of that right now. But in the future, we're going to be continuing to work to really enhance Premium and to build up the set of capabilities, right? And so as you'll see from this list, what we have is we want to make it easier and easier for you to scale up and scale out your capacities. We want to have capacities that span multiple nodes, so having 3 or 4 P1s or in a particular capacity. We want to start enabling larger and larger data sets, right? All those limits in the service, we want to keep raising and raising and raising until you really can't tell that they're there anymore, or maybe they're just not there at all, right? Other improvements, especially around performance, right? We want to enable you to pin a data set to memory in your capacity so that it's always in memory, right? It never has to be loaded in. You're never gonna have slower performance due to memory thrashing. And so you can do that for your most critical data sets, right? To really, really, really guarantee that amazing performance. Even greater refresh rates, right? We do 48 a day now on Premium. We'd like to raise that even more. Incremental refresh, dedicated refresh nodes, read-only replicas. I mean, the list just goes on. And we're really excited about what the future holds for Premium. And we think it's going to be a really exciting ride.
Yeah, we like to think that Premium gives you the flexibility to deploy Power BI how you want, but it also gives us the flexibility to give you the features you've been asking for. Because now, you have purchased that Premium, and we can make a whole set of capabilities available on it. And use that capacity you purchased, whereby with Power BI Pro, we do put some limits in the service there so that we can ensure consistent performance for everyone. But Premium gives us that capability to give you more control and more performance as much as you're willing to deploy more Premium nodes for it.
Exactly. Well, great. So that's my presentation. I just want to call out also that we have a bunch of really helpful resources now stood up for Premium. and that list is here. There's also a bunch of additional sessions that Adam mentioned. And we're also going to have a feedback focus group where we're going to want to hear from you guys about, hey, what do you think about Premium? What's your feedback? We just love hearing this kind of feedback. And as Adam mentioned, your feedback is a big reason of why we started down this path in the first place. And so we really highly encourage you guys to attend that as well. It's going to be Tuesday at 11:30.
Great, and I know you're hearing a lot of this for the first time, so we do have a few minutes left for questions, about 10 minutes before we're going to get kicked out. So I would encourage you, if you have a question, there are 2 standing mics in the aisles here, so you can kind of line up behind those, and we'd be happy to answer them. For those of you that don't have time to stay for questions, you're welcome to head out to your other session, but we'll take any questions people have now. And we'll start on this mic right here.
Question for you. Since you have your own instance of Power BI, I know that there's something that you can't do in the current instance of Power BI, and that is load your own R libraries. There are currently, I believe, 363 supported in Power BI. If I have Power BI Premium, would there be a possibility that I could install my own R libraries at some point?
This is a really good point, and this is one of those unique things we can do now that we have dedicated capacity. So we're looking at a number of enhancements we're going to make in the future that can take advantage of this dedicated nature. One of them is perhaps custom visuals being used as part of screenshots, and the other one is exactly what you said, the ability to use perhaps custom R libraries. So we don't have specific timing for it, but those are exactly the sorts of capabilities that we'll look at adding now that we have these dedicated resources.
I'm, 1+ vote for adding my own R libraries to Power BI.
That's great. I appreciate the plus vote. It doesn't count unless it's on ideas.powerbi.com, so go vote for it there. Thank you, right here.
So in my scenario, I've got probably a couple hundred users just consuming the data, then only a couple people actually publishing to workspaces and things of that nature. And the data all comes from an on-prem analysis services cube. So kind of a 2-part question, is going to Premium actually going to do any real performance improvement? Then as well as, do the 200 people that are not really publishing anything or just consuming the data, do they still need a pro license? Seeing that it's all in workspaces and we're using analysis services.
You want to cover that, sir?
Sure, yeah. So for the first part of your question, right, which was, do I get a performance benefit even if I connect externally to a different data source? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So to that question, the answer is absolutely, right? So you're making these queries live to the data source, sure. And to a certain extent, the data source performance is going to impact your own performance in Power BI. But you got to remember that Power BI is not just that connection to the external data source, right? Power BI delivers a ton of value on top of that, right? Dashboard caching, quick insights, the ability to do email subscriptions, and just a ton of additional value that we can add, right? And all of that value is going to be living in dedicated capacity, and you're going to get much higher limits on that. And so I think the answer to that first question is absolutely yes. And your second question was, you have a few hundred users who just kind of consume the data, right? Do they need to have pro licenses? Is that correct?
Well, yeah, so since they're connecting and we're doing using an analysis services cube on-prem, and then also they're connecting to the reports in different workspaces that have been shared to them.
Yeah.
They're not doing the sharing, but it's been shared to them.
Sure.
I'm wondering if those users still need pro licenses.
Yeah, so if those users are just consuming Power BI apps, right, and those Power BI apps could contain all the dashboards and reports built with the live connection to your underlying data source. If they're just consuming, they're just read-only, they're just exporting it to Excel or CSV, they're not going to need a pro license, right? Okay. But if they're going to be collaborating on that stuff, they're going to be resharing, maybe playing around with the reports or any of the other collaborative features we have planned, then they will need a pro license.
So the question is, if you don't have Power BI Premium, if you're just using Pro, sharers and recipients all need Pro licenses.
Only Pro. So a Pro licensee cannot share with a free.
Correct. Yeah. Pros can share to pros in the all Pro deployment. Yeah, and Premium can share to both Pro and free. Yep, next question here.
Yes. From my current understanding, the only way to distribute Power BI content to both Pro and free users is through an app workspace on Premium dedicated capacity, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right.
I guess my question is, I feel with the move to an app workspace over a regular workspace, we're kind of losing that object level security, dashboards, reports, and notifications of when new content's being published. Is there anything that currently exists to where we can choose, because from what I can see, an app workspace is kind of all or nothing.
So we have customers that are using different apps to apply different levels of security. And you can almost think of an app kind of as like a folder. So if you had different folders that you wanted to apply different security on, you could have different apps that apply that security as well. The other thing that a lot of our customers do is they'll use role-level security to apply at the data source level. And of course, you can do that in apps itself. And, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Right, but I'm just wondering in terms of dashboard, being able to share dashboard with someone, or only because within an app workspace they have access to everything within a workspace.
Yep.
I'm concerned with being able to pick and choose of people within that app workspace what dashboards they can see or what reports they can see.
Yeah, that's good feedback. We've heard that from customers of apps. It's something that we're looking at and considering in the future. And if that's something that you're really passionate about, I'd say vote for that idea as well, because that's something we could add in the future as an enhancement to apps.
Okay, and one more quick question,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. Also, something that you sell as part of Power BI Premium is the ability to really fast refresh, and I understand it's within dedicated capacity, so we, our own resources and everything. But my next question is, are there any other methods besides kicking out workspaces that are ranking up the usage to limit, like refresh, limit how much data on our side? Because, I mean, we don't want everyone going out and, okay, every single report's 48 times a day, or every second refresh, or...
So there's a question as an administrator, how you can control how users are, how often they're refreshing in capacity, so you
Yeah,
kind of
because from what I
conserve the
can-
resources there?
Because from what I can see, the only thing we have is the ability to kick people out.
Yeah, I see. So you want them in, but you still want to control how they're
Because, I
using
mean,
it.
depending how much capacity we have, I mean, we might not need to move to a separate node if we can
Right.
cut back on how much refresh there is,
Yeah.
or how much data is loaded, or...
So we're continuing to work on the types of controls that administrators can exert over their organization. We recently released granular admin controls, for example. So you can control, like, this user can do this and this user can do that. So certainly in the future, certainly on our roadmap are continued controls over how people can set up refreshes, can they use gateways, right, things like that. In the near term, another really powerful tool here is going to be the audit logs, right? So as an administrator, you can at least set up these audit logs, query them with PowerShell, what have you, and set up these alerts so that when users are doing things you don't want against your capacity, like sharing things out too broadly or et cetera, you can at least take action to say, hey, this person, hey, you should probably stop that. Right?
Okay, thank you.
So premium versus pro is transparent to the end user. What about on-prem? Any ideas of how to address that on-prem versus Azure-based?
I mean, the Power BI report server on-prem offering is inherently a different deployment type. And you're right, the reports deployed on-prem are not in the Power BI web portal. But one place where it really comes together nicely is the Power BI mobile apps. Because you may have seen that there's been an update recently where you can connect your mobile app not only to the Power BI service, but you can also connect it to the Power BI report server so that users can get one unified view of all the reports. Another option that we've seen some people think about doing is if you really want to use the Power BI service, app.powerbi.com, as kind of the front door for all your reporting, but you do have some reports that are on-prem, you can include links kind of as drill-through actions from a dashboard in the service down to reports that are on-prem. And a lot of customers tend to use that approach.
So they would have to VPN and they would have to authenticate. So doing from a mobile device might be a challenge, but at least you could link them between the two.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Right.
that's a common approach.
Thank you.
Yep, right here.
So my understanding for the premium is you are no longer have a pro user and a regular user. However, when we go to the price calculator for the premium, it asks you to make this differentiator, and it's actually an additional cost to the capacity or the node. So is it still gonna be the same? So if I have users who author the reports, I have to pay additional subscription for them to get the pro license, but all the user who consider consumer or all the free, if you will, those would be taking under the node or the capacity?
You got it absolutely right. With premium, you still have pro licenses for probably the relatively few number of people that are actually creating reports in your organization. But then once you've created the reports and packaged the apps, the distribution of that to people that are just consuming can be done without any additional pro licenses. But yes, you do still have the pro licenses for the people that are authoring or collaborating with Service Live Connect in desktop or Analyze in Excel, okay, those authoring activities.
Another quick question, if you don't mind. So the sharing aspect. So if you mentioned a pro can share to pro, but what about if I have a user who actually, one of my premium capacity, and another pro user shared something to them, and it's from a different workspace or external or whatever have you. Can they still see or retain the access to that, even that they are, part of the premium users or the free, pool?
So a user, him or herself, is either free or pro. Content is either in premium or shared capacity. So if the content is in premium capacity, then that content can be shared to any user, free or pro. So that's the way to think about it. Users are free or pro, content is shared or premium.
That makes sense. Thank you.
And I do have to say, we don't have any more time for in-person questions because I know there's another session that's happening afterwards. I do want to invite you all to the Ask the Expert session because we're going to have people there who are knowledgeable on premium, including many of the engineers that worked on it. So if you have more questions, or if you're one of the early few that's already provisioned your premium capacity, I encourage you to stop by, check that out, and let us help you out with any more questions you have. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.